Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
Well, not only can you check out the show at bjshow.co, you can listen to any of the episodes on bjshow.video, which will take you to our YouTube channel where you can just pick whatever you want. And literally, there are hundreds of shows up there right now. I think we're up to, 300, something like that?
Well, that many segments, yeah.
Right,
we have
right.
100, and this is our 123rd show. And Brad, today is our official 6-month anniversary of doing the show.
Wow, John, what did you buy me something for that?
I did, yeah. I will. I will get you something at the zoo that you're going to. I will buy you a donut today. I will put it on my tab.
You know, I haven't been to the zoo. I don't know, maybe 20 years. No, I take that back. I went. I can't remember when I feel sorry for all those animals. I really do. I think the zoo's a terrible place.
Really? Because they're in confinement and they're not in their natural habitat?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know people go, well, we're saving some. No, you're not. You know, I mean, how would you feel? Let's go back to Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston, right? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought that one of the best corporate spins that you see is when you look at, I guess that's technically a nonprofit spin, but when you look at all the messaging that comes from zoos and wildlife habitats where they say, okay, yes, we took all these animals out of their natural state, and yes, they don't know who their parents are, and yes, all this stuff, but we donate a portion of our proceeds to the, whatever African Wildlife Fund, and we give them a better life. I mean, it requires some really well thought out spin there.
Let's see if this is going to work. Hold on a minute.
Take your stinking paws off me, you dirty ape!
There we go. That's Charlton Heston from the original Planet of the Apes. Okay. Much has been said about all the college commencement addresses of the Harrison Butker thing is still resonating quite, you're either for or against him. And it's interesting. I was reading a story over the weekend that talked about all these women have come out and said, you know what, Harrison's right. But most of them were saying you can have both. You can be a career woman, you can go to college, get a degree, and you can still be a mother as well, too. Some of them were saying, no, you can't do that. And I think it's sort of interesting that if he would have gotten up there and got a speech, go, okay, here's what you need to do. We need to embrace that there are 46 different genders, and if you want to live with someone who is your same gender and had artificial insemination, that's all okay. And nobody would have said anything. But instead,
they would have said, it's so brave. You're so brave.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then we had over the weekend, we had Biden who gave one of the addresses. Here's one that nobody paid attention to that I find absolutely fascinating. Okay. The guy's name is, as soon as it comes up here on my phone, oh my God, it's not going to load. Okay. This is at UMass Dartmouth. Okay. And the speaker was Robert Hale Jr. You know who he is?
No, I don't.
You should, because he is a big-time
Bobby Hale.
Robert Hale Jr., and he's not the guy on Gilligan's Island. Robert Hale Jr., the founder of Quincy-based Granite Telecommunications. And he said the graduation ceremony was last Thursday, and he got up there and he said each graduate who crossed the stage on Thursday would receive one $500 envelope as a gift, while the second $500 envelope is intended to be given to, quote, someone in need or a charity or cause close to them. So as the students came across the stage to get their diploma, they got their diploma and 2 envelopes. Both of them had $500. And he said, these trying times have heightened the need for sharing, caring, and giving. Our community needs you and your generosity more than ever. And guess there were 1,200 graduates. Each of them received $1,000. Isn't that like What is it? $120,000?
That's the more math than I can do, but that's a lot of money.
Is that 1.2 million? Hold on a minute. Isn't it terrible? I used to be really good at 1200. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I can't do my stupid thing right. Okay. I can't even type. 1200 times 10. Hold on a minute. 0. I can't. 000. 1.2 million. He had 1.2 million.
That's a lot of money.
He gave away on stage. I thought that was right. I'm thinking to myself, isn't that 1.2 million in cash? I mean,
the good thing is that allows the women to stay at home and not have to work, Brad.
I don't think $1,200 is going to make you stay up at, well, no, not $1,200, $500 because you have to give five. How many of those people do you think kept all $1,000? That would be the interesting question.
Almost 100%.
Yes.
And then you rationalize it by saying, well, I need it now, but I'm definitely going to remember it when I make $1 million. And then after the 401k has a little more than $1 million in it, they say, yeah, but really in this day and age, you got to have at least $2 million. So when I get to $2 million, I'm going to give away that $500.
I thought that was fascinating. Now think about that for a minute. I can still remember, and I'm not trying to say that I've done this and I'm trying to make myself out to be like a great guy, but I have eaten at restaurants before. And for me, if the server dumps the food in my lap, they still get 20%. And normally, I'm like a 30, 40% guy. There have been times when I've had exceptional service where I've tipped more than what the meal cost me, okay? And I can remember a time when I gave, for like a $13 order, I gave a server a $50 bill, and she about fell over on the floor. Now, part of that is I can still remember me as a curboy at Steak and Shake up in Lindbergh in North County on one cold winter night where it was raining very hard, and a guy, it sounds like, it was raining hard in Frisco, I needed one more. I'm like, I'm Harry Chapin doing Taxi. I can still remember a guy coming up, driving up, and most of the other curb boys have been sent home because it got very slow. And me and one other guy working the entire lot. We had a big lot up there, and a guy pulls in and gets a cup of coffee. And he doesn't want it to go. He just wants to sit there in the mug, because we used to, back in the day, we gave the coffee in mugs at Steak and Shake. And the guy sit there and just enjoyed his coffee. And I think the coffee was, I don't know, at the time it was like maybe 50, 60 cents, not like it is like right now Starbucks where 50, 60 cents buys you the stir. Anyway, he gave me $10 and looked at me and he says, keep the change, buddy.
Wow.
I never forgot that, and it's one of those crazy things where it stays with you for your entire life. At least it has with me, because
I guess the whole point of the story is that if you see a waitress and it's $13 and you give her $50, she's guaranteed to be on the floor. Is that what you're saying, Brad?
No. I mean, it's just one of those things, it's every day we go through life and we have certain things that are like da-dun-da-dun-da-dun-da-dun-da-dun-da-dun-da-dun-da-dun. There's a pattern to life, okay?
The same thing as the day before.
Right.
Most of us do that.
And when you break that pattern, someone recognizes that. Whoa. And sometimes it's in disbelief. Well, why are you doing that? Why are you giving me a $50 tip? And in this case, he's essentially saying, this guy, Robert Hale Jr., he's essentially saying, I'm giving you your first $500 as a college graduate, and I'm giving you $500 to go out and to give to someone. It could be someone on the street. It could be your favorite charity. It could be someone that down the street that need their car repaired and can't afford to get new brakes in their car or something like that. I think that was sort of interesting. Okay, second story to talk about this morning. They're closing the iconic Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas. Do you know about this?
No, I didn't hear that. Who owns that?
Well, here's part of the reason I brought this up is because I'm thinking to myself, I had no idea. The Mirage was sold, I think, a couple years ago to the company that now calls themselves the Hard Rock Casino Incorporated or something like that. Now,
yeah, I just Googled it. Yeah.
Do you know who owns the Hard Rock Casino Hotel?
No, who owns it?
The Seminole Indians from Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And they're going to do a major overhaul of the property, which will include refurbishing the resort and constructing a near 700-foot tall guitar-shaped hotel on the site, similar to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino near Hollywood, Florida. The 80-acre resort will be renamed as Hard Rock Hotel and Casino and Guitar Hotel Las Vegas. Is that a mouthful? And they abbreviate it.
So you're saying that they're just going to scalp the property? I mean, if that happened to me, I'd end up with a very pale face.
John throws these. John should have been in the Army, because here's what John does. He has on his combat vest, he has grenades hanging from his combat vest. And every once in a while, he pulls off one of the grenades, he pulls the pin, and then he throws it in my lap and says, "Hey, Brad, take that."
There you go, Brad. But you were saying, Brad, on a serious note, you were given the details.
The interesting thing about this is the Mirage is considered to be the hotel that created the new building boom, because it was the first mega resort hotel done by Steve Wynn before he actually...
wow.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, 89 or something like that? 89. Hotel first opened in 89, was the first mega resort to open on Las Vegas Strip, and its success sparked a building boom in the 1990s for other large resorts, forever transforming the way tourists hotspot did business in Las Vegas, which brought you all the different casinos, including Bellagio and stuff like that. I still remember one year when I took my son. I was actually before I took my son. I was there the year before Bellagio opened. I remember going and seeing construction where the big, where the fountains are was just like a big hole in the ground. I didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
I'm going I go, what's that?
It's for sure an attraction. It's a must see when you're there.
I'm telling you, to the point where I told the story one time before. I took my son when he was 15 or 16 years old. Went to the Las Vegas. We have the National Association of Broadcasters convention, which is in April of every year, and him and I were there for 4 or 5 days, and we finished up the convention, and early on, we pretty much saw everything we needed to see, and him and I did some sightseeing, and we had about 3 or 4 hours left before we had to go to the airport, and I said to him, "Okay, any last thing you want to see before we leave?" And he says, he sort of looks at me with sort of these, I'm going to be in disbelief when he says this. He says, "Dad, could we go back and see the fountains again?" And I go, "Yeah, sure." And,
oh, that's nice.
And I thought to myself, and once again, one of my favorite all-time movies, there's a great scene at the end of Ocean's 11 where they're all at the Bellagio, and one by one they all leave. The Danny Ocean's, the Ocean's 11, they all slowly walk away. And I thought that was such a good scene in that movie. That's such a good movie. Anyway, okay, one last thing, and then I got to get out here because, like I said, I got to make tracks. Okay. When you think you think we got problems in Oakland, California. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
They're removing the traffic lights at major intersections in Oakland. Now, you may say to yourself, is that to cut down on global warming? Is that to essentially make it easier for people to navigate Oakland? What would you think if you read that headline? I just gave it to you. They're taking out the traffic lights.
I would say that people are stealing the lights for copper.
They're stealing the electric wire that runs the.
Are you serious?
I am as serious as a heart attack. Here is the headline. Oakland locals blame homeless encampment for city removing traffic lights to stop copper thieves. They're stealing the electric wire. Now, for those of you, see, I'm a nerd about a lot of things. I own, I'm going to tell you something you've never heard me say before. I own 10 traffic lights, okay? And why do I have traffic lights? It's a long, complicated story where some of them are actually given to me. And what people don't understand was, if you look at a traffic light, see up there on the pole hanging, above the traffic, the traffic in the lanes, you don't realize how big those are. Each of the lights, each of the individual colors are a foot tall. So if you have a red, a yellow, and a green, that's 3 feet. If you have a red, a yellow, and a green, and a left arrow and a left green arrow, you have a traffic signal that's 5 feet tall. And because they're up there in their poles, they're made out of some kind of plastic. So they're not really made out of, back in the day, they were made out of cast aluminum, then they went to other things. But the current traffic lights are all made like plastic or polyurethane. I don't know exactly what it is. It's some kind of plastic. So what they're doing is the homeless people are stealing the copper. Now, and here, let me read this. Oakland has been experiencing high crime and theft, including people stealing copper wires in the city's infrastructure, according to locals who spoke to CBS News. The city attempted to thwart criminals tampering with its electrical boxes by placing cement barriers over them to no avail. Now the city has taken removing the traffic lights at busy intersections and replacing them with stop signs.
Unbelievable.
It says,
The reason why this was top of mind, though, Brad, is because I think it was in L.A., a number of Tesla charging stations, EV charging stations, had been stripped, and it was because of copper.
Well, the same thing, if you know who Caleb Hunter is, who is our guy who runs Extreme Electrical, he advertises a lot on our other station, Westplex 107.1. He told me that his company has been a couple times, and I think before he actually started his own company, he said this happened to a couple times in the company he worked for, where they would be hired by cellular telephone companies because the thieves, especially the ones way out in the middle of nowhere, would go to the cellular website, or cellular cell sites, and steal the copper. And the crazy part of it is he says that sometimes they would do this on live circuits, and he was saying that he couldn't believe that nobody was ever not killed because they would go in.
It'd be very easy to get electrocuted, wouldn't it?
And this happens at radio stations. This is a common problem at radio stations, especially AM stations, because there's a lot of copper in the ground, a lot of copper strapping and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is, one of the engineers in one of the trade publications I subscribe to, one of the radio trade publications, figured out that how long it took these guys to strip the wire out of the ground and out of his building. And then he figured out that they would have made more money per hour if they would have worked the drive-through at McDonald's. Because,
I'm sure they would have, but you know what? The McDonald's, Uncle Sam takes a little bit of that check too.
Right? When it's like my infamous time. Did you know this? One year I did all these crazy things I wanted to do in my life, and I wanted to work the sign one day on my birthday. I guess about 3.
Yes, you have this on YouTube. This is on YouTube.
Yeah, I went to Interstate 170, where a bunch of the quote unquote homeless people hang out, and they have signs, and now there's a lady gives away roses, would you give her money and stuff like that. Anyway, I had a sign printed up, and it said, hey, today's my birthday, help me celebrate with some cash. And I had, instead of cash, I had some dollar bills. And I showed up at the site, and I was there about 30 minutes, and a guy came up to me who was a normal regular there, and he picked a fight with me. He was gonna throw down with me.
And you're like, hey, it's my birthday.
And he was making fun of me because he said that I was taking money out of his pocket. And I go, well, why don't you get a job?
Yeah.
And he said to me with a very straight face, I owe child support. And if I get a job, they're going to garnish my paycheck. So you can see he was an upstanding citizen because
what a father.
Right. He was avoiding paying child support. I got one more for you, which is honest to God true story. And I didn't bring this up about, 2 weeks ago at an intersection that I go through quite a bit. Once again, it's by an interstate. I won't say where it's at, but people who are in this area, they know, because there's always, now it's to the point where it used to be people on the exit ramp going from northbound 170, I won't say which interchange, but now they're on the southbound interstate. There is a restaurant, a Wendy's, and now I've sort of given it away, very close.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about.
Very close to where this intersection is. And on 2 separate occasions, I've been sitting in the parking lot eating at Wendy's. I've seen people drive into Wendy's in nicer cars than me, get out of their car, dressed matter of fact, the last time I saw that, it was 2 young women who got out of the car, and they literally put on some, and I swear this happened, they put on like a jacket that had some holes in it and stuff like that, and they were driving, guess what kind of car they were driving, John?
Cadillac.
A Lexus. They were driving a Lexus.
Oh, nice.
And I thought to myself, where are they going? So when I finished my lunch at Wendy's, I drove down the street, and guess what? The 2 women that I saw who parked their car in the Wendy's parking lot were down working the sign at the exit ramp. And I'm going like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So that's what's the problem.
I was just going to say, we did a volunteer day one time when I was at the old Monsanto, and there was an urban garden that wasn't far from Schlafly downtown. And it was a Friday, and everybody that worked there was coming in to get their paycheck. And we listened through the whole thing of how hey, we hire people who are homeless, who don't have any other options, whatever, and we pay them and they harvest these crops. And so we did our volunteer day. And Brad, we go out, and it was like an ad. A friend of mine said it was like an ad for like a Ronald Reagan commercial, because these people were coming to get their checks who were apparently destitute. And the guy that parked in front of me was literally in a Cadillac, Brad.
Years ago, one of the best radio reporters ever, Kevin Kleen, there was a guy downtown, like at Tucker or Market in like 14th Street near the Firefighters Memorial, if you know where that's at.
Yep.
And there was a guy who notoriously would be shirtless. Even in the winter, he had no shirt on. And one day, Kevin Kleen went down there to interview him, and you know, the guy was more than happy to talk to Kevin, and Kevin talked about, you know, hey, what are you doing? I'm trying to make some money. You know, you're here all the time. I see you all the time. You don't have your shirt on. Don't you get cold? No, I don't really get cold. And Kevin asked the infamous question, what do you do with the money that you make? And he says, I go right over there and buy drugs. And he points to the Firefighters Memorial, where apparently that's like one of the hot spots for buying drugs in the city. So anyway, so hopefully, I
like, you know, the idea though, Brad, you talk a lot about keeping the money local, Brad, and supporting the local economy, but isn't that what he's doing?
Yeah.
He's supporting young, aggressive street pharmaceutical salespeople.
Right.
And isn't that something that you support?
That money is not, well, I support local broadcasting, where when you buy money, you know, when you buy advertising on this station, it stays in the community, as opposed to other stations where it goes to New York or Philadelphia or Minnesota, but that's a whole nother story. John?
Oh, Brad, you're just giving away $400 to KFAB every other week. What are you talking about?
I am? I think they're stealing $400 a week from me. I think that's what it is. John, have a real good day. And we're going to end early.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
The next segment will be a best of, and then Armstrong and Getty right around 8 o'clock.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?